The final chapter on JFK, Segment 2, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Thanks for tuning back in. In this segment, we're going to be looking at the character of Lee Harvey Oswald. And I know that for the last 60 plus years, everybody's said he's crazy, he's a nut. But when we look at the character of him, although he only lived to be 24 years old, we can start out with he had a very hard life. His father died when his mother was pregnant with him. She had a number of marriages or remarriages after that and moving. He had a difficult time because the family was extremely poor. But there were some elements of Lee Harvey Oswald's character that showed through for the entire 24 years that he was alive. He didn't smoke, he didn't drink, he didn't carouse, he really didn't swear, he didn't get in fights. And even though he was from a poor background and poor upbringing, he didn't steal, he didn't rob, he didn't assault people. He had no criminal convictions aside from a $10 misdemeanor disturbing the peace event that happened in New Orleans about 6 months before the Kennedy assassination. So when we look broadly at Lee Harvey Oswald's character, we can say that he was a man who did not really have a dark or disruptive path. Now, with that said, there are a couple of elements in his character that stand out and occur over and over and over again in his life. Lee Harvey Oswald's family had a history of military service. Oswald's older half-brother, John Pick, went into the Air Force. And I believe at the time of Oswald's death, Pick was still in the Air Force. And Oswald's older brother by about 4 years, Robert Oswald, in 1952, he went into the Marines, and from that point on, Lee Harvey Oswald started studying and reading the Marine Corps manuals, and his goal was to also enlist in the Marines, and he tried at the age of 16, but was rejected because he was too young. And he tried again on his birthday when he turned 17. And that day he was allowed to enlist because he was old enough. And he continued in the Marines up until the time that he was discharged and came back to see his mother in, I believe, 1959. The point is, Oswald loved the Marines. He kept anything relating to his service. He had his Marine Corps book, his diploma, his Marine Corps card, his certificate of service, his Marine Corps manual, and he was a good soldier. The only problem he had was when he left the service and was dishonorably discharged. They changed his record because he went to the Soviet Union to less than honorably discharged, and he wanted that fixed. But beyond that problem, he loved the Marines to such an extent that even at the time he was arrested for the killing of President John F. Kennedy, depicted in a jail transfer photo, is a Marine Corps ring on Oswald's left hand, the Marine Corps ring that was his brother's and that he wore all the time. Now, beyond Oswald's family history of military service and his history of military service and his dedication to the Marines, he also was a man who loved his family. As his mother testified to the Warren Commission, as an exhibit which was depicted by the Warren Commission, Lee Harvey Oswald, when he went away to Japan as a soldier, he regularly wrote to his mother. And in fact, Mrs. Oswald produced for the Warren Commission countless letters and even envelopes from her son from 1959 up until and through 1962, all with the letters he was sending his mother. When Oswald met and married his Russian wife, they had a child in Russia or in the Soviet Union. And when they returned to the United States, they had another child about 1 month before Kennedy was dead. So Lee Harvey Oswald was a family man. He tried to take care of his wife, his infant daughter, and his newborn baby, working minimum wage jobs, getting laid off from those jobs, but never committing a robbery, a crime, or anything else, just working away. And in fact, living in a small room in a rooming house, 40 minutes away from his wife and children, in working there during the week so he could return on the weekends and see them. Lee Harvey Oswald, at least what the record shows, was a family man to both his mother, his wife, and his children. One more item that at least relates to Lee Harvey Oswald's character, and that is he was able to learn his lesson. In 1959, when he went to the Soviet Union, he wasn't there longer than a year when he wanted to return back to the United States, and he realized that he made a mistake. We have up on the green screen a letter from Oswald advising that he wanted to return to the United States. And in fact, as we discussed in a previous segment, a State Department official, counselor for political affairs, in an assessment of Lee Harvey Oswald, stated to the State Department that Oswald had learned a hard lesson the hard way, and that he had been completely relieved of his illusions about the Soviet Union, and at the same time that he acquired a new understanding and appreciation of the United States and the meaning of freedom. Lee Harvey Oswald was a man who made a mistake. He was a man who realized he made a mistake, returned with his wife and child to the United States, earning minimum wage, keeping his nose clean from crime until the Kennedy assassination. The bottom line on character evidence relating to Lee Harvey Oswald is not negative. He does not appear to be a bad character in any manner, shape, or form, aside from the alleged killing of President Kennedy and his one trip he made to the Soviet Union during his youth. But with that said, let's look at what J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, said about Lee Harvey Oswald, is that he was not a man known to be prone to violence. So at least as far as what we know on Lee Harvey Oswald, it would have been out of character for him to attack anyone, let alone kill the President of the United States. Hope to see you in the next segment, which will be Lyndon Baines Johnson.